This video is brought to you by Happy Little Hug Factory. Make sure to stop by and check out when you're looking for Final Fantasy, Force of Will, or any other cards you need.
Alright, so we're going to be neutral on this one. We're going to do our best to speak our minds on this one and try to stay neutral. Hello, everyone.
Is the triple triad going net neutral? Or no?
We're always net neutral.
No, but you just said speak our minds. So, like, that's it, man. We're coming out of the cage and we're doing just fine.
Yep. Tell me the rest. How?
gotta be down. I'm coming up.
I'm down with the system.
Better get this party started. I'm coming up.
All right, everybody. We're getting started. I'm Emo Tempest. I'm your host. We are the Triple Triad. Today we got a lot of special guests for you. I have Ian Velez, I have Curtis Kang, I have Steven Arboleda, Andy Carmona, and Alejandro Ziegenhurt. We got a group cast. Supercast. We were trying to get as many people as we can, as many of the strongest minds on this, because apparently, from what I heard, the drafted has been tested with a lot of competitive players. Unfortunately, we don't know who these players are, so I brought a bunch of competitive players together so we can talk about this. Okay?
I'll see you guys later.
That's true. If you are playing purple cards, or if you've ever played Opus 1 Orlando, get out.
Oh, damn.
All right, so I guess it's just me today. But no, but seriously, guys, so we're here to talk about that. It has been a big issue in the community. It's kind of dividing us a little bit. Hopefully not to the extent where we'll be at each other's throats, you know, come April, but just enough to boil everyone's competitive blood a little bit. I'm gonna turn it over to the cast. We have, well, I already told you who we have, but we're gonna start off with Steven. Steven, let's start with you. First of all, have you played draft at your locals yet?
I have played draft at my locals. It was relatively early in like Final Fantasy career because I think it was Opus 2 or Opus 3 that we drafted, Curtis.
No, that was just sealed, dude.
It was just sealed.
Was it sealed?
Yeah.
At Game Garrison. No, at Game Garrison we did wind up playing. We did draft at Game Garrison. Was that not with you? Because I know I drafted once at Game Garrison. It was Opus 3.
I probably didn't go then if that's the case because I don't remember doing any drafting.
Well, yeah, it was early on, but I suck at it. So something I gotta get good at, I guess.
Okay, so so you guys haven't done any Opus 7 or 6 or?
No.
Okay, so you don't. Okay, so follow-up question then. So being that you haven't had any practice with this going forward, I'm starting with you, Steven. How do you feel about them implementing this now for the new, 2019 Crystal Cup competitive season?
I feel like if it was going to be introduced how they did it, I feel like I needed to know about this like at Nats about the following season.
Last year, right?
Yeah. I feel like I needed to know about this last year. And, like, we didn't even get an official announcement that happened. RB just mentioned it because the German Crystal Cup announced it. So he said, hey, by the way, just so you know that their format is the same one that we're having. Yeah. And so that's when everybody flipped out. So, like, we didn't, like, Square Enix NA didn't officially, like, announce that was the case with us. So we still didn't get the official announcement. We should have known about this a long time ago.
It was a real cat out of the bag situation, right? Like,
yeah, well, it was so random. Like, you wouldn't have expected to like see that come out of the post that he made.
Okay, Curtis, following up with you, since you're saying you haven't drafted anything Final Fantasy yet, right?
Well, I have played draft. I just haven't done it at locals.
Okay.
So like I have experience in it, and like I know how to do it, and I'm okay at it. But like it's not something that our local scene has been doing very often. We just mostly play title.
Okay. How do they feel about it now? I'm sure you guys have had locals between the announcement and now, I assume, right? A few.
Yes.
So how do they feel about it? What's the turnaround there?
So most of everyone that I spoke with, they're just confused as to why it's there, but I don't think it's like completely deterring them from not going to Crystal Cups and playing competitively. Some people are, like very few are pretty vocal about like not going or like sitting out for the season, but most of everyone is still in the season. They're just confused. Okay. What about you? What are your thoughts, like personally? Like, does this really make you not want to go, or does it kind of, I don't know. Tell me about your feelings. Sure. So to be honest, I'm pretty indifferent to this whole thing. The fact that they announced draft is not going to make me not go to Crystal Cups. I'm still going to go to as many that I can regardless. And then I was talking to some other people about this topic like a couple days ago, and I think that right now with this whole draft business, like I think people are kind of taking it out of proportion a little bit. Like I think most people that are like super super competitive and want to go to Worlds, like that's their goal. So nothing's really going to stop them from trying to do that for the season, regardless if it's draft or not. But I think like semi-competitive players or like people who are thinking about getting their feet wet this season now have that impasse of whether or not they want to go to these Crystal Cups, because their goal is not to go to Worlds, it's mostly to do well at a Crystal Cup. So with this introduction of a new format that they're not really experienced in or they don't really know about, at that point, you know, it kind of puts a hamper on all their goals. So that's why they're being vocal about it, in my opinion.
Okay, that's a good point too. I hadn't thought of that. Well, that is definitely something to think about too, because a lot of these players, because their community's small, right? So we're getting a lot of new players, and then they're just like, oh, I'm not really ready for all this, right? And what it comes down to.
Yeah, and then another thing to add on that is like, sure, I'm indifferent to all this, but I still don't think it's a good idea. It's not a good idea, especially the way that they announced it. It is a little ironic though, just because like, you know, a lot of us wanted to be just like Europe, you know, and like have that uniformity, and now we do have that uniformity, and now it's making people mad a little bit. So to me, it's a little ironic, but like, it just seems that Square kind of just decided that this was a cool thing to do, and now they're going to do it, rather than like kind of taking it at the angle of like whether or not it's going to grow the game or not, because like you said, the game's pretty small. I think making a decision like this out the blue hurts the growth of the game, especially when it's not that big on the local scene. But I think most competitive players kind of see the writing on the wall that Worlds might have a draft format now.
Yeah.
But I'd appreciate if they just came out and said that was the case, instead of just doing this tongue-in-cheek kind of thing and making us guess. But if it's not the case and World doesn't have a draft format, then yes, this is a terrible idea. They shouldn't do it. But as it is right now, I'm indifferent.
Okay. All right. I'll move on. Alex. We've been playing draft a lot at our locals, right? We recently did Opus 3 draft. Some of our locals bought Opus 5 boxes to draft amongst ourselves. And just this past weekend, we did Opus 7. Tell me about it, man. How do you feel about it, doing it at locals? And what is your take on the whole Crystal Cup thing?
Sure. So, I feel pretty strongly about this one. I was just like the rest of our crew. We were just like, oh, well, this is just something else we need to get good at now for Crystal Cup. But this past week when we had the locals, man, I really came to terms with this is going to be what blocks people from top 8 at a Crystal Cup. And it's just insane. Like, you could just get a bad draft and just, after spending $400 just for the privilege to get to a Crystal Cup, going 8, 7, 6 X in day 1, making it to day 2, killing it, get a shitty draft, and you're going home. And it really toggles me, man. I don't know. I definitely.
Is that really toggles me?
Yeah, that toggles me, dude. I'm real toggled about it.
So for everyone listening, triggered is level 1, toggled is level 4 of upsetness.
Toggle sounds like this.
Exactly. That is being toggled.
Definition of toggle. This is toggle class 101.
I can hear the anxiety in that one.
Okay, so follow up, Alex. So we've been playing 4 packs. We've been drafting with 4 packs, and since they announced we haven't had a chance to do the 6-pack draft thing, do you think that's going to make a big difference for us, or can you, I don't know, comment on that yet, Alex?
We'll have to see what it's like in the 6-pack, The 4-pack pod was really aggressive, man. Just you could really see the power differences in the deck. I don't know if Opus 8 is going to be a little bit different, right? Maybe they're really going to get there with more limited style in mind. But right now with Opus 7, it's just like get an 8K. It's pretty much uninteractable with. Get a Zezat with the right mana, or a Snow, and you just got there, you know, and yeah, that's fine for locals, totally fine, but to determine a top 8 after playing a full day of constructed I just don't agree that should be the case. And you know what really kind of like freaks me out is that the sentiment on Facebook is not really as negative as you would think. I was definitely expecting a lot more people to be like, no, this is not happening. But honestly, a lot of people were just like, oh, yay, great. And I just don't understand.
So to touch,
I really don't get how people think this is like a great idea.
So to touch on that, we have 2 petitions going on, right? I want to bring these up to like the attention of all of our viewers and listeners on all of our like channels or whatever. You know, there's Jordan Dank. You know, shout outs to him for sure for starting a petition to, you know, veto this whole drafting in the Crystal Cups. And I don't know does anybody know here who started the, you know, petition to keep it in there? Because we definitely have 2 sides of that.
I think I saw Lucas Watson sharing it, so I don't know if it was him who started it, but
okay,
he definitely sharing it.
So one of them sharing it. So Andy, I'm gonna ask.
It was another Euro players sharing it.
Oh, yes, I think the Euro players are really for it too, right? Andy, so follow up to that. Whose side are you taking? Jordan Dank or Team Euro?
No, it's not as black and white as that, dude. The real reason why that petition is actually out there anyway is really to gather information that Square Enix will consider. You know, and this is something that Jordan Dank time and time again has shared, that he didn't just post this out of, you know, hate or love or whatever it was. He actually ran it by RB first before even putting that out, and RB thought it was a good idea that it can, you know, be another platform where we can voice our opinions. That being said, there are pros and cons to how this works. You know, some people are for it, some people aren't for it. Obviously, we've established that. Me, for one, I don't think it belongs in something with there's what, the world invite or national invite or whatever at stake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like you're announcing this way too late. You know, I think the Petite Cups would have been a perfect example to try out this new format. You know, it's, I guess, in Square Enix's best interest to keep the whole community satisfied, but you know, I don't know. You just, I don't know. At this point, do we trust them? Do we not trust them? Do we agree with everything that they say? Like, you know, you really gotta sit down and just think about, like, okay, damn, is this really worth flying out to? Considering that, yeah, I've played draft, I understand how this limited format, but will I allow that to dictate how I get into the top 8? You know, is that really something that I like? But I don't know. As far as that being said, the only thing that I don't like with this argument is that every other sentence that you read about this argument is like, yeah, but in Magic it's, and I'm tired of hearing that.
This isn't
Magic.
Tired of hearing,
yeah. I'm sorry, but like it's great that you want to make comparisons, but at the end of the day, it's ain't Magic. This is Final Fantasy. Yeah. You know, it's its own thing.
The game's not like, where there are similarities, the mechanics and the whole process is obviously different.
Yeah. This is not a game that's been in rotation for 30 years. This is literally on its 2nd year. Like, you know, let it be its own thing.
Second competitive year, really, right? Because the game's been around. And that's true too. Like, technically, the game's been around since what? You know, a few years already, since Opus 1 or whatever. We weren't.
Yeah, because it was just like, maybe you get product, maybe you don't, and then just pure silence.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, thank you for clearing that up, though, Andy. Though, like that, I'm glad it's not as black and white as we see it. Like, you know, as
Mm-hmm. But what people want to make it out to be is that, okay, here's an argument. I'm definitely gonna like offer a counter argument. You know, so of course people find it very cheeky to be like, oh, well, he's making a petition. Why don't we make our own petition? You know, people say, oh, why didn't he just make a poll? A petition sounds more aggressive.
Yeah.
Why do you attack it like that? Well, there was a poll, but then obviously, like he said, he went straight to RB, asked, you know, I'm gonna do this. What do you think about this? And you know, they thought it was actually a good idea. So, I mean, at the same time, if it's a good idea to have a poll for people to voice their opinion about why they don't want it, why can't it be a good idea to have people have a poll that says why it should be in it?
Well, I think like making the petitions just a cleaner option, just because like obviously people sign it and that's it. You don't have to read everyone's like different reasons, and then you just see that how many people signed it, and then like on Square's standpoint, like, oh, okay, 200 people don't like it, but they don't have to sort through like billions of comments of people kind of saying the same thing or maybe not saying the same thing. It's just inconsistency. So I think it's just better to do it that way than just going to poll.
Absolutely, 100% agree. It's just like you said, it's clean information.
Okay, it's good. All right, Ian, I didn't forget about you. Don't worry. I did have now you're next, and I do have questions for you. First of all, how are you at drafting? Like, is this something like that you're comfortable with? And tell me that. How's that?
For me, I think at least us, the team here in like the local Tampa area, we're really pretty comfortable with it. It's something that we've done with each set. Sometimes we've even done it like multiple times. Like it's just for the reunion, we practice it like once or twice. Everything. And we've even done All-Star Cube as well. So it's something that we indulge a lot, at least in this area. But even with that, I would still vote no for the inclusion of them and the Crystal Cups. And I think my main reason why I think the game's still too early for that. Because when people start doing other formats, is usually to expand and get a bigger growth in terms of people. But I think as much as I love this community and everything, we're still not at a decent size to warrant having to have multiple formats. I know and not only that, it's only with one entry. Usually with other formats and other games, you have if you like for Pokemon, if you want to go for standard, you enter a standard tournament, and if you go for expanded, stuff like that.
Yeah. Of course.
It's just one of those things that I think also the approach should have been kind of like give us a taste of it, kind of like an airplane. Here comes, you open your mouth, like take a little bit of taste of it and see a reaction. It's like if he's doing that sour face, I don't think he wants it. I think we need to take it back work on it a little bit more. But I think it's just something they should have done with like I think the perfect thing to do is with LQs, since there's so many of them, you can like divulge and have like a few that are drafts and then test it like that and see the how much outpour in terms of people going to that event, and then from there you take into consideration whether to play it in the pretty much like our regionals for in this game especially when it's an event that competitive. I can see on other people's points because I say in the end that it should be in it, but I think it's way too early.
Okay, and you come from Yu-Gi-Oh also, right? Like, what are the?
I played Yu-Gi-Oh a little bit more. The game I come from the most is the Naruto card game.
Okay, and then
obscure as it is.
Yeah, no. But see, that's the thing. We're not used to these like these big draft things, right? And it's like that's.
Yeah. I've played my Magic on and off. I've never been like too into the game, but again, like I think they warrant for something like that because the game is so big.
Yeah, it's been.
Not everybody is want to play standard. Not everybody wants to play modern or legacy or anything like that. So for them, since they have the size to warrant be able to split tournaments like that, just for different tastes in people, I think it's perfect for them. But I don't think it's. I think we're just too early in the game because we're all, like you guys said, only the second like competitive season.
Yeah, and that's true too. So follow up to that. You mentioned that they should. Well, we've all talked about it a little bit. You've all mentioned it a little bit that we should be doing this at other events. I agree with you. They did mention that there's going to be like how many local qualifiers, like 100 plus, right?
At least 100.
At least 100, right? So I know we usually get those, in the middle of the season, like between the Crystal Cups and stuff like that. But why don't?
Oh yeah, summertime.
Yeah, why don't we put some of those, draft? Would everyone agree that those would be better, like options, like one for constructed and one for, a draft LQ? Is that something you guys would be behind? Is that?
I would say yes, just because I'd say at least one per like region maybe, just because like at least in Florida we had at least a handful of LQs, and then just having suppose we have 5, have 4 of them be like the standard format, and then 1 of them be draft just to test it out. So even though it doesn't work out, you still gave that region enough opportunity to get the qualification with 4 in just that state.
Yeah, Curtis, go ahead.
Yeah, so like honestly, I don't think having a draft LCQ is a good idea at all, just because the fact that this game is so small, it's sad to say this, but for the past LCQs, they have been kind of like almost like a marketing thing to get new players into the game,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
at least in our
I mean,
area.
even there was an LQ here in Florida where there was literally just 6 people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the first one.
So like for like Virginia and things like that, like some of our events for the LCQs, like it brought in new players, and that's good in a way because these LCQs, although they're really hyper competitive tournaments to get you into nationals, it still serves as a way to like get new people in the game that haven't really heard about it and now they're interested in it. And now they get more into the game. We have a couple players that kind of did that same path, but I think if you have like an LCQ like draft format and that kind of thing happens, like you have like someone new there and they're in a game they don't really understand and then they're just like drafting cards in a game that they don't know, I think that's going to be kind of bad. But like also to play devil's advocate, like if you flip it, I think like maybe some Crystal Cups should just be pure draft or like pure sealed or wherever they want to do like they did for Gen Con. I think that would have been fine if like 1 or 2 would have been like that. But like also like for Crystal Cups, like if you're afraid that this is going to be taking your spot away from nationals, like you could still do an LCQ and you could still win nationals and then qualify for votes that way. Like that option is still open, and like players like Denk, like they can do that. And I think any player that's saying that they're just sitting out the season completely because of this announcement for like Crystal Cups, I think that's going like way too overboard. Like you still have an option that's not a Crystal Cup and it's more accessible to do an LCQ and just win that, go to nationals, and then do whatever you need to do for the season.
Okay, Alex, what do you think is another great way for them to like actually incorporate this before throwing it like into the whole season?
Well, I think Curtis said it best. Like last year, they had Gen Con, where it was a completely side event, and give that a whirl. Give a full competitive draft tournament a whirl before you just throw it into the middle of a constructed event, right? Like that just seems pretty basic to me. I think with one Crystal Cup being fully draft or sealed, and we see how that goes, then we can go from there. But I don't know, man. My just experiences with drafting in this game have not really shown me that the game is ready for a competitive, limited scenario at like the big scale regionals. Like one day, but we're just not there yet today.
Okay, Andy, same question.
What was the question?
Oh, and what other ways?
It's been a lot of people talking.
No, you're right. You're right. There's a lot of us. So where do you think else they can implement this? I know you mentioned they could have done this in petite cups, but is there another way? Like Crystal Cups, what besides the Crystal Cups? I mean, they could have done this.
I think that's more the responsibility of the LGS at this point. Get if everybody's like down to really play draft, set up a weekly or bi-weekly or something with the LGS so you can practice it. I mean, you can also just do it with your friends, but does it have to fall on Square Enix's responsibility to like make a draft tournament all the time? Not necessarily.
I guess I meant competitively, really. Like.
Oh, then I completely botched the question. You might want to edit that out.
No, it's okay.
Botched.
I do it for Steven. He's easy to entertain.
Maximum level botched, boys.
No, but for competitiveness,
yeah,
man. Well, for one thing, it's like, I guess like a time restraint type of thing, because if you have to make time for constructed and then you want to make time for draft, how long are these things gonna go? Luckily for us, Gen Con, was a nice 4-day experience, but are you gonna make every competitive scene a 4-day experience? I don't think so. I don't know. That's still something that needs to be left in the research and development department.
Okay. Well, to be fair, I think most Crystal Cups or like official Square events, they're pretty good on time. So I think with the inclusion of draft, I don't think it's going to add too much time. It's going to be, maybe like an hour or two more. But usually they end at like 6 o'clock regardless. And as long as it's not like a Yu-Gi-Oh event where you're there like 9 o'clock in the morning, you leave at like midnight, I'm fine with that.
So I'm actually glad you brought that up. So that's kind of my biggest issue with this thing. So you said it. Let's say there's almost 100 people, right? That's gonna warrant us 8 rounds, right, on day one. We're gonna do 8 rounds. We'll end about 5:30, assuming there's no time issues and assuming there's no like system issues, recording points, and all that, right?
Issue there is.
Then day 2 is gonna be top 32 drafting, right? So there's gonna be 4 8 pods, right? 16, yeah, 4 8 pods. And they're all going to be drafting usually around 10 a.m. Draft 30 minutes, then play another 32 people is 5 rounds, and then add the best scores out of that. Take a break, go to top 8. They're going to play 2 out of 3 70-minute rounds. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm starting to think that these events are going to require us to book our trips till Monday now, because like before, it's like I can leave Sunday night, right? Like I'm there, I land Friday, relax, play Saturday, and then win or lose, I'm out Sunday night. You know what I'm saying? And what's gonna happen is people are gonna have to take extra days off, and that's gonna like push people away from doing that. And that's really my concern. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, or if you've thought about that, Steven, maybe?
I was actually. So I'm earlier today, I was looking at the flights for the Crystal Cups, and this is me assuming that nothing changes and everything stays the same. Like, all my flights that I look to leave were all leaving Monday morning, because I know that if I do top, which that's the mindset that I'm going in, I'm expecting that.
Always.
I need to account for it. Like, I would hate to like book my flight for like Sunday night, and I'm making it to the quarterfinals, semi or whatever, and I gotta leave. Like, I'm not going to throw away the money for the flight. So all my flights are booked for Monday morning because of that exact reason. Thinking about the logistics and how lengthy the whole tournament's going to be day 2.
Okay.
So then it comes into factors like, all right, now I got to save more PT. PTO, instead of it being one day off, like Friday off, I got to take Friday, Monday.
Yeah, and that's really going to be, I think that's what it's going to bug
it's
a lot of people. Yeah, right? We only get so much. Some of us don't get it until after we accumulate it, right? And so that's going to be a big problem for some of us. Ian, maybe is that a problem for you? Is that going to be a problem for you too, Ian? I'm curious.
Repeat that on which topic?
Oh,
exactly.
The extra day. Like if these things are going to last 2 days, effectively 2 days.
Especially as a full-time college student and then full-time work, then yeah, it does kind of hinder sometimes. Because time is precious when you're like doing work at school at the same time. So like, you have to pick your tournaments wisely, and then having that just one day that you got to stay might make you not want to go to that local tournament or whatever.
Yeah, man, and that's really what's gonna like, and I feel that's what's gonna hinder the showings at these things, like what the count's gonna be like, and that might ultimately show bad numbers for Square. And I don't know. I feel if things keep popping up like this throughout this year, I feel like this game might not have such a long lifespan anymore. I've been talking with some other players, and they're concerned that this might be the last year this game is, I don't know, fluently functional. I don't know if any of you guys feel the same way, but...
No, I don't think the game's going to go anywhere. It's not that bad.
It's not that bad?
I don't think it's like... Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't think this is like doomsday material.
Loud noises.
It's the end of the world as we, and I feel fine.
And then like I really don't think like the drafting itself is the thing that's gonna break the camel's back. But I think it's just the fact that Square always loves to announce these things like last minute. I think that's where everything's gonna start going to like where the game wouldn't be fluent anymore in the way that you said it. Like, if they would start to like announce things like at a timely manner, I feel like that would be good rather than like just doing it like, I think we got the announcement that we're having draft 2 days after we got the full schedule of Crystal Cups or something like that.
More or less.
Here's like a
Facebook post as well, not even official.
Yeah, that's pretty much kind of what I brought up earlier. But here's like the other thing that kind of, again, I'm indifferent about the draft. I think it's just something else that I got to get good at. But What did upset me is, why are we trying these new formats for competitive play when I don't even have a judge program?
Yeah.
Euro has a judge program. They have some judges. Where's our judge program? Like, I feel like before we start expanding the game, we kind of need to stick to the fundamentals and kind of give our rules a backbone. We need to have like legitimate. We have to have like a PDF that does go into judging, and then also violations when it comes to gameplay, whether it be slow play, all that. Like, I need something like that first before I want to start expanding in other formats. That's just my 2 cents on it. That's what really got me upset about having this, is expanding the competitive formats without having legitimate competitive judges.
Yeah, and that is a good point too. We've already had some problems. Like, I think the highlight of last year's problems were like the slow playing thing, and people were, kind of taking advantage that the judges weren't really on top of that and stuff like that.
I mean, they can't be though, because there's no document that specifically states what is considered slow play and what's not. There's no black and white. Yeah. And if there's gray area, that's where the problem lies.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the transparency we need with these things, as well as I agree with you. We would need the judge program to fix that, as well as set the rules for this whole draft thing, because they're gonna throw this on us, and then we're not gonna have like the drafting itself is gonna be a problem, right? Like, what if someone grabs
from everything that we said? I'm pretty sure the general consensus that we can all agree upon. I think it's just the game is too early of a state.
Yeah, man.
You know what we're missing from the cast is someone who's like into it. Do we know anyone who's?
I mean, I like it. Like,
I like draft as well. It's
no, in CC though. We all like draft. I like draft too, but in the CC to make it a gate for top 8.
So,
do we know anyone who's down?
I do, but I don't want to put them on the spot.
If you want me to, I can play devil's advocate and argue why it's good for Crystal Cups. Like, I think the only way that you're going to find someone who is fully into this whole thing with Crystal Cups is either, one, they just love everything that Squares does, but like, secondly, I think the argument that you need for this is you have to look at it through Square's eyes. Like, why is Square doing this? Well, one, they think draft is fun. 2, they feel like doing draft will make the people that qualify for Worlds the best of the best. And that, I think, is their main reason for doing this. So they don't want to make that spot for Worlds qualification easy. But at the same time, you have to make the decision of whether or not you agree that being good at draft makes you better at this game as a whole. I think that's a good question to at least look into.
Yeah, I believe that there's a huge difference between being a master deck builder and a master pilot. And I definitely think that if you're a master pilot, you deserve to get there, like whether the deck you built was yours or not. But I realize that is just my opinion.
Well, I don't disagree with that, because like, it just as hard as it is to build a deck and make it tune it and all that, like, the deck builder didn't win all these tournaments. Like, I mean, they that's how you got their list. Of course, they topped somewhere, but like, they weren't in that seat next to you telling you what plays to make. So no, I agree with that. Like, being a good pilot is a big deal. It's important, and I think that just because you're not a great deck builder, but you're an amazing pilot, you should try and take away the opportunity from
people who would do well at drafts are the ones that understand the game the most. In terms of, that's why, like, having a limited pool of cards and doing the best they can with what you get shows off the best of the player, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cool to have, cool thing to have behind your community if you were to stand out and have their format like that. But like, again, I just believe that it's just too early. There's too many things. Like you said, we don't even have a judge program yet, and we're supposed to like have different situated tournaments. And I don't know. For me, I think I'm all for drafts, but not at the moment. It has to be later on.
So they're after the net deckers, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would. Why wouldn't they be? They want someone who. All right, let's be real here. Like, a lot of the Euro players have been dominating Worlds, like, all in all. And if you look at it, like, they're diverse players. Like you're always catching them playing something completely different every format, and it's not just like they're not one-trick ponies. So I guess they want. I mean, they want that out of everybody. I mean, I'm not trying to be like mean or anything, but like some people play multiple decks in top with multiple decks. Some people just play one, and nothing against the people who play one, but I see the logic behind like Square wanting a deck builder, because they're not. If they make it out of that and they build their own deck, they're not going to be one-trick ponies. So when it comes to the Worlds format where you're presenting 3 decks, you're also comfortable with those 3 decks and very competitive with those 3 decks and understand matchups better with those 3 decks.
Oh, yeah, well, that's that, and you're right. That's definitely. It's probably that's the thing, right? They want to change the 3 deck format, and they want to like give it something, make it a little different, and I can understand that too. But I don't know. We're gonna have to see how that turns out. We could probably take a turn here. We've kind of just kept hitting the topic a little bit. So let's talk about the Crystal Cups in general, like the locations and where are you guys planning on attending? Because I definitely want to hang out with you guys at a lot of these. Curtis and Steven, how many of these are you guys planning on attending? We have Tampa, Toronto, Portland, Lenexa, Richmond. You're obviously going to be there, and Chandler, Arizona at the end.
I was gonna go to all of them.
Really?
But I would probably, I was. But then I looked at flights, bro. Some of these are expensive.
Yeah.
I think if I'm skipping out on any, it would be 2 of them, and it would probably be Arizona, because that flight was like $410.
Wow.
And then Oregon, because that flight was like $350.
Yeah.
Toronto, if we end up driving to Toronto, then I would go to one of the other 2. But if I end up having to fly to Toronto, I'm missing 2.
Have fun driving to Toronto.
Yeah,
it's about 11 hours from us.
Yeah, so like
Tampa, this is from Tampa to go to Toronto.
So like I've made the drive to Tampa before, and it was like 13 and a half hours, and I did that by myself. So I'm okay driving like that length. And we drove to Kansas, which was about 16
hours. And with 5 people in the car. 5.
Yeah, so like I'm okay driving it. If I have to do that, I'll do that. And at this point, I'm probably gonna go to almost all the Crystal Cups on the East Coast. The only ones I probably will not go to are the same things that Steven said: Oregon and Arizona. Arizona because it's a lot of money for the flight.
That's the most expensive one.
Oregon's pretty expensive too, but also it's Oregon, so I don't know what I do in Oregon. So I don't really want to spend money to fly there. Not to dog the state, but that's just how I feel. But like everything else is like within reasonable driving distance, so I should be going to all the other ones.
So you're looking at 4 and Gen Con definitely, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's gonna be good. Andy, what about you? Tell the people what they want to hear, where they can find you this season.
Well, I think the only one I can actually go to is Tampa.
Oof. Okay.
I can't even go to Gen Con.
Wait, why?
Reasons.
It's not in the cards, bro. Sometimes Mercury is in retrograde for a really long time.
He's got to work on his lightning deck. That's why. He's got to go back to him.
He's got to figure out some 2 places where Orlando.
He doesn't want to give away too much too early, and I respect that. Alex, what about you? What are your goals? What are your plans?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm going to go to pretty much all of them, except for, like I said, Oregon, Arizona. But we'll see, man. If we're going to give it a tester, if we go to that first one, and I already said it, man. If we go to that first one and we go 6, 7, 8, and then we drop it in draft because somebody picked up 3 legends in their draft. Yeah, man, that might be the season for me, bro. I don't play that game. That shit'll toggle the fuck out of me.
It's true.
Yeah, so that first
shit on top.
Yeah, so April 13th is gonna decide.
I would be the same. Like that's another thing. Like if I were to like go like XO X1 in the
yeah, that'll be a wrap.
And then just lose because I got Sephiroth or Snowed every single game. Yeah. I'm not having that.
Yeah, and then I don't know if they're keeping that thing where the guy who goes undefeated goes straight to top 16. That's not gonna happen anymore, right? Like because he's gonna skip the whole draft. Obviously not, right? Yeah, there's a lot of things there. So Ian, what about you?
It's a no for me.
It's a no. Ian, what are your Where are you reaching this year?
Definitely not Tampa. That's way too far for me.
Yeah, I was looking at flights. And I was like,
Yeah.
No, it's not like I can walk there.
You can't fly from Tampa to Tampa. They're not letting you do that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely making Tampa. For me, I'm making 3. Yeah, I would say Tampa, Virginia, and Kansas.
Kansas. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing I'm doing with that Petite Coast, which would probably be my destination. Well, definitely going to Kansas, but.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually surprisingly probably won't be able to go to my own to the closest one to me, Tampa. My buddy's getting married that weekend, so that's probably a no for me. I was gonna try to
tell him to reschedule.
Yeah,
I tried. I really did that.
But... You gotta reschedule. Like why?
So the funny thing is, I was actually gonna go Saturday and then hope to get top 16, get my play mat, and then go home. Right? Yeah, but I can't do that anymore because top 32 is draft. So I might just go play and then hopefully help start blocking for you guys or whoever's going, and I'll be out Saturday. I'm considering Toronto and definitely Kansas and also Virginia this year. They're all on my radar. They all seem very possible now because I guess all of us after reunion we've all gotten a lot closer, I think. So we're gonna we definitely want to keep that going this year. And
just one more tournament, and then Andy can sleep in my bed. We'll know each other enough.
Yeah, it's I just want to be there so when Andy makes everyone breakfast again, that's gonna be the trick.
Oh man.
Bro, we gotta get the Airbnb house ready for Toronto.
Yeah, Alex, get on
They ain't ready. They ain't ready.
Doing Toronto though, or Wagwan?
Bro, we're doing Toronto.
No, I think we should save the reunion house for Kansas because that one's gonna be like a good.
Oh,
one.
bro, why would you pay for a hotel for any of them? Hotels are too expensive. You can always do a reunion house.
Well, we'll figure it out, I'm sure. I don't know. I think that's gonna wrap it up for me, guys. I know it's a little shorter than we're used to, but I think we addressed all the things that I wanted to say. I'm gonna leave it open. I'm gonna go through you guys each one more time, see if there's anything you want to add to this. Alex, starting with you.
No, man, I've said all I need to say, man.
Okay.
Drop the mic.
The mic has been dropped.
All right, Ian.
I was actually just receiving a call. What was the question?
Oh no, this is
love it.
This is
Excellent
any
word.
last little anecdotes
Strong effort.
you wanna go on before we log off, man?
Did we say anything before we go off?
Yeah, is there anything?
Sorry, you were saying love it. I'm like,
Should make a funny noise, sing a song.
Yeah.
oh, nah, my guitar's out of tune.
All right, Steven?
We're gonna be calling the Justice League a lot this Crystal Cup season, boys.
Many Justice Leagues.
Any Justice Leagues?
Andy?
I mean, I don't know. Don't take this game too personal. You know, if things happen, things happen. They don't. Just play it.
If we all go EXO,
It's my turn, Ian. It's my turn. You had your turn. You
Don't
didn't
take it
say
so
shit.
personal, Bobby.
Go turn.
Damn.
Go.
And he says to not take the game personal.
It's okay.
No, but I'm taking my turn personal.
Yo, my favorite jam about what Andy just said is that if the situation that I described happened to Andy, no one would be safe. Like, you'd have to leave the building. So, like, what? We take this mad personal because we're highly competitive and we love this game. That's all.
Anyway, I'm just saying, man. I mean, just don't get too toggled, regardless of what happens. Just play the game,
Nice
man.
toggle.
If you enjoy it so much, just play it. What's the worst that's gonna happen?
Live your best life.
You live your best life. I don't know. I'm trying to leave on a positive note, man.
That's good, man. I appreciate
Pumpkin
it.
spice lattes for everyone.
You know, let's all be happy. Let's keep pretending.
Let's keep pretending.
Curtis, anything else?
Oh, man.
The only thing I have to say about this is with all these episodes about the draft, it's going to be really hard to come up with an episode for this week on our channel.
Bro, we fucked up. No, not we. I fucked up.
Don't-
I fucking let the other one die. I could have been it.
I'll help you guys out. Don't forget to stop by the Turks channel, just to hear what they talk about.
So here's the funny thing: is like I recorded a similar episode on Friday.
Yo, dude, no. As soon as they announced draft, the first thing I wake up to is a text from Steven. Yo, we have to do a pop-up episode tonight. And I was just like, really?
Yes. So like I get it together. I get the crowd together. I got Sam in there, Sam Prime, Sam Tool, Curtis, Okimoto, and JFB. I even got JFB on that thing. Dude's like 5 hours ahead of us. It was like 2 a.m. his time. Dude should have been asleep. And I record it. Then I can't find the file after I finish recording, but I know I recorded it. I'm looking for that file for like 2 or 3 hours. Finally find the file, to then realize I recorded in the wrong format. I go to convert it from a KLV or whatever the fuck it's called to like MP4, corrupt, lose all of it. GG. GG.
Well,
it's over.
I hope that doesn't happen to me tonight.
Make a copy of it right now.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys all for joining me. My thing is, I'm the best Smash player in this chat, and I will see you guys.
You're out of here, bro.
We're gonna stream
like Yu-Gi-Oh! Slumlord, bro. Get out of here.
We're gonna stream Smash one of these days.
No, we're not.
Thank you guys for listening. We're the Triple Triad, the Turks, and Ian Velez. Good night, everybody.